Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. We are here to talk about Auburn's game with Houston. It's going to be Saturday, the Midwest Regional of the NCAA tournament. You can catch that at 6:10 Central on TBS, or you can just go to Birmingham, or as we call it, Neville Arena North for this game, as Auburn will be playing not too far away from home. That said, the computers have got Houston as a 7.6 point favorite. That is averaging between Ken Pomeroy, Bart Torvik, BPI, and Jeff Sagarin. The computers give Houston a 78% chance to win. Blake, I got to be honest, really love the way Auburn played in its first round game. And Houston was banged up, but Houston exited yesterday a little bit more banged up than we knew.
Yeah, it's not ideal for a number one seed to have injuries. Marcus Sasser, we talked about the groin injury. He left the first round game against Northern Kentucky, re-injured it. So now it looks like status unknown against Auburn. So that's one, right? That's one player. But now, Chris, I'm going to look it up here because I checked it last night. But I don't know if there's been a significant update. But after the game, Kelvin Sampson says that Jamal Shed has a knee issue and that the exact phrasing was, "I'm very concerned." To me, that sounds like, you tell me what you think, but that doesn't sound like a guy that may play in this game either. So yeah, I don't know. So I think the problem. I don't know. I'm looking at this now, and Jamal himself said that no doubt he's going to play. So, um, so that's fine. But I guess you're asking the question of, are they going to be 100% in this game? I think it's very clear that Houston is not going to be, but still they're a
No.
really good team. And now you're facing an Auburn team who, let's call it let's call it what it is. Like the things seem to really be aligning for right
It's
this
a
moment.
home game.
Um, they got the draw in Birmingham, surprised us all. But then they came out and forget the draw. They played really well against Iowa. We talked about it. It was a total team performance for Auburn. They got production out of everybody. 6 guys in double figures. The balance, the bench play. They did so many things well. The shooting. Um, they just did a lot well in that game. And now you're riding all this momentum against the Houston team that also, let's call it what it is. I mean, they were in the danger zone for a little while against Northern Kentucky. They wound up winning that game by 11. So I don't know if it was a full-on danger zone, but they just weren't the same team, right? And so now it's just a matter of seeing what you get from Houston and who's going to play, how many minutes are they going to play. Without Sasser, it's clearly a team that I think, can struggle a little bit at times. So this now it's just a fascinating matchup with all the storylines that are in play here.
Yeah, the computers had Houston as about a 19-point favorite with a 96% chance to win yesterday. Didn't play out that way. And look, I called this a home game for Auburn. Not quite that. Alabama fans are also in the same session, so I'm sure there will be some people there rooting for Houston wearing some crimson. Also, Houston, I think, will travel a little bit. But so there's that. But I think the big thing for me, Blake, I just love the way Auburn played on Thursday.
Yeah.
I thought that looked like the best version of Auburn. I felt like it's the first time in a while that the Auburn team we thought that Auburn could be showed up. John Broome was tremendous. He had a double-double and 5 blocks. Wendell Green was fantastic. I thought Auburn made pretty decent decisions with the ball. I mean, there are times that they will do things that just make you go mad, like watching Katie Johnson get a dunk and then stop to celebrate and lose his man on the other end of the floor. But Wendell Green was, I thought, tremendous. He's hit 30-something free throws in a row, was good with the ball. I mean, Auburn, if it can carry it over, and that's an if because Auburn hasn't really done this all season, look like a team you do not want to face, and you really don't want to face it when it's got a lot of its fans in the building.
All right. Where did Houston struggle against Northern Kentucky? Why was that such a game?
I will have to pull up the box score because I
Well,
watched a
I can
lot of
tell you.
stuff, but I have not looked at the box score yet.
Well, I can tell you. For starters, they turned the ball over a lot. They turned it over 17 times. Now, do you know where Northern? I don't know if anyone could have guessed where Northern Kentucky ranks in turnovers forced. Very high. They are 12th in the country in turnover percentage defense. So they turn them over, right? What can Auburn do defensively when they get going? They can turn people over. Not to maybe the same rate that Northern Kentucky has this season, but you also have to, I think, keep in mind just the overall schedule and that kind of stuff too. But so I think that's a huge key here. For Auburn heading into this with momentum is if you're trying to craft the upsets, you're trying to find the story to build the upset, it's going to be forcing turnovers against the Houston team that's actually done a pretty good job this year taking care of the ball. But remember, if you take, if you have a less than 100% sass or less than 100% shed, that can play into it, right? So I think that's something that you definitely look at in this game and see if you're trying to find a path for Auburn. I think it's forcing turnovers and turning that into easy baskets because it's still an Auburn team, even though they're starting to make more threes. We talked about that. It's 7 in the second half in that game against Iowa. They still need easy baskets to be able to, I think, have consistent offense. They've still got to find a way to get some of those in. And what else have they done this season to be able to do that? It's getting offensive rebounds and having easy looks that way. But also on the flip side, Houston's one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. Auburn has given up some offensive rebounds. Now remember, they play in the SEC where you have a lot of teams who can, get second chance opportunities, and that's one of the reasons why. So stats can be a little misleading when it comes to that. But yeah, like this, I think this game is way, way more fascinating now than we would have ever thought probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. But again, like I said earlier, everything has seemingly aligned for Auburn to be in what feels like a pretty decent spot here. Um, and look, we're not wishing injuries on anybody, but like it's just the nature of where things. It's reality. Like they have a couple guys who are banged up. Houston does, and you've got an Auburn team that seemingly, as we talked about, played one of its more complete games it's played in the past 2 months. Chris, that's not an exaggeration. Like one of its more complete games in 2 months, and they're staying home in Birmingham, basically. And now you again you play a Houston team that, I mean, I know it's probably not, essentially, Chris, like they limp to victory against Northern Kentucky when you really just think about it. I mean, it's just, you've got injured players and, you had to sort of pull that one out and they did give them credit. I mean, they found a way to win it, but yeah, I think that clearly makes this just much more interesting now, given all the elements that are in play. So,
Okay, I'm going to cut to the chase here, okay? Because if this is a normal game where it shouldn't be in Birmingham, sorry, Auburn fans, that's just the reality. Is a 9 seed, you should not get rewarded against the 1, but that's what the committee did. And if Sasser and Shed are healthy, then I think I'm going Houston. But look, Sasser against Cincinnati, coming off a game in which he'd scored 30 against East Carolina, gets 4. Doesn't play the next game against Memphis. They lose that one. Gets 5 points against Northern Illinois last night. Last night being Thursday night. I was listening to Kevin Norlander's podcast. They talked about him limping around a little bit in that game. Now you got the Shed injury. You got Auburn playing with a home court advantage, essentially. And you've got a team that has done well in tournaments. Remember what Bruce Pearl did a few years ago. You've got a team with guards that played a lot of ball. Like, I'm just going to be honest. I had Houston getting knocked out by UConn in my bracket anyway. The injuries were enough to concern me I just couldn't trust.
but you at least had them in the Final Four.
No, I mean, I've got UConn in the Final Four. I had that pre-tournament.
They're not in the same region.
Oh, well, they're not. But if they were.
That's my question. So did you have them in the Final Four?
Okay, here's what I had. I had Drake beating Houston. Excuse me.
Oh,
Houston
wow.
beating Drake and then losing to Texas.
Okay.
So I had him in the. I did not have him in the Final Four.
Okay.
I'm on cold meds and caffeine, and it is not going well for me. But in any case, I think
Yeah,
it was
yes.
because we just talked about Kansas. But in any case, okay. I did not have Houston going to the Final Four anyway, because of those injuries, and I think Auburn wins this one straight up.
Mm. Well, I mean, look, statistically, Houston is better than Auburn in pretty much every dominant statistical category. Like, just if you're just looking at the overall numbers, like better field goal percentage, better free throw percentage, better defense, better rebounding, better turnover, like all of that, like is in Houston's favor. Um, I'm looking at covers, like they always have kind of just the the general overview of where teams are at, and they do the little plus for the team that has the advantage, the X for the team doesn't. All the pluses, or excuse me, all the check marks are on Houston's side. So they have the statistical advantage in all these different areas. But
it's not the same Houston
it's
team.
not the same Houston team right now that we've seen all season. And because of those unknowns, I think I'm going to do the same thing you're doing. Because, and look, all of this is all dependent upon, can Auburn continue that momentum? Because, Chris, let me ask you this question. When's the last time Auburn won 2 games in a row? When's the last time Auburn had a winning
Feels like
streak?
it's been a minute.
It's been since mid-January. They had a 5-game winning streak in mid-January against Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, South Carolina. So 3 of the worst teams in the SEC are in that range. But that's the last time they had a winning streak. So how many times have we seen them put it together in back-to-back-to-back type games, right? It's been a little while. Although I think you can make the argument that they did that against Alabama on the road, should have won that game, and then came back and beat Tennessee at home. So if you just look at it from that standpoint, it hasn't been that long. But you do want to see it. What's the thing I talked about why I was a little worried about Auburn against Iowa? You remember what I said? It's because they just haven't won a lot of close games. Well, they're able to pull that one out against Iowa, build a little confidence in close games. I fully expect this to be a close game. But the problem in picking Houston is that I don't know. Shed says he's going to play. So I'm going to trust that he's going to play. I don't know what that looks like from a production standpoint. I have no idea. I mean, look, he played 36 minutes. He still played 36 minutes against Northern Kentucky. So even if he's got a bad knee, the guy played 36 minutes. So, I mean, hey, maybe he's going to be fine. But not knowing if Marcus Sasser's going to play, going an entire game without him, only played 14 minutes against Northern Kentucky, I don't think Auburn's Northern Kentucky. I think Auburn presents more challenges with how they're playing right now. And so, yeah, I said it from the start. I think this is a good setup for Auburn as long as you get the Auburn team that you got against Iowa. I think they've got a real shot here. So,
all right, we are going to be picking every single SEC game in the NCAA tournament. We're going to be recapping them all. Best way to get those, hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing. Hit the like button. That helps our analytics.
one more
that
thing,
helps.
Chris.
Yes.
I want to mention this real quickly. Even with Houston in the spot, I forgot to say this. If no one realized this by now, Kevin Sampson is one of the best coaches in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt he's going to have them in position to win this game. I want to say that quickly, even though, like we said, we talked about Auburn on this, but let's not discount the fact that one of the greatest coaches in the country is on the other sideline, and I fully expect him to put them in position to advance here. So,
all right. Well, I'm taking Auburn still. With that,
so if you trust Chris and his cold medicine, you're going to pick Auburn. So there you go.
Oh boy, it has been a day. Hit the like button. That
Bruce
helps
Pearl's not
us.
a bad coach either, so he'll have his guys ready.
He's not. Hit the like button and the subscribe button. That helps fund my cold medicine and my caffeine, which I need a lot of right now. Oh my goodness, my head is swimming. In any case, thank you for watching Southeastern 14. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. We'll see you soon.